Hello and welcome everyone to the SLO City Together podcast featuring a leaf blower.
Yeah,
just outside our
window.
Can you hear that?
Can you hear that?
Why not? I think you can hear it a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah. But anyway, hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whenever you're listening
good
to
night.
this.
That's a Truman Show line.
Oh, what is it?
In case I don't see you.
What's the Truman Show line?
You don't know the Truman Show?
Good morning, good evening, good night.
I think it's like, in case I don't see you.
Oh.
Good afternoon, I don't know what the Truman Show
line is. I know what you're
This is great.
referencing.
Sorry.
I don't remember it entirely.
False start there.
It wouldn't be our first one.
Yeah.
So here we are. Thanks for joining us today. Jim Hay came in earlier this week and told me that we missed a golden opportunity.
Which is what?
To have a podcast on February 29th.
Oh.
Because that was last week. Yep. And
I think the guy outside, just so you know, knows that we're on the podcast and is getting closer and closer to the window with a leaf blower.
He's actually just blowing it on the window. It's just there's no leaves on there, so I'm not exactly sure what's going on.
But that fits the narrative of the property. Yeah. Leap year, February 29th. We missed an opportunity. Thank you, Jim.
Yes. Hey, we'll get another chance in 4 years. So
we didn't think that it was a day, so we just didn't show up.
Yeah, no. I thought it was just a free day that you could just kind of spend how you wanted.
It should be. Once every 4 years, shouldn't that be like a national holiday? Like everybody just take the day.
It's like a year of Jubilee almost, but just a day.
Cancel debts.
Every 4 years.
Yeah.
It's perfect.
Reclaim the land of your father.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm for that. Who do we talk to?
I think right now it's Joe Biden.
Okay. It's all the way to the top.
I think
There's
can
no
make
some
quick decisions on that, I think.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on this weekend is also daylight savings?
What
are your thoughts? Yeah, did you know that? We're springing forward.
Are we losing an hour?
Yeah.
Oh.
We're losing
You're going to be so sleepy for that.
Yeah.
Yeah. What are my thoughts on
it? Are you for daylight savings? Are you against? Should we have just one time? And if so, which should it be?
I like the system that we have. For one, I've lived in it for 40 years, and I haven't really been too bothered. I think it does get a little dark in the wintertime, but I think I enjoy that. I look forward to when the evening extends.
Yeah. And
I look forward to when the evening diminishes.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? So I like winter to be dark, and I like that. I think it helps like sleep, rest, rhythms. Yeah. And then summer, it's, I don't know. I don't mind it. People are all been out of shape about it, but I don't understand why, really.
Yeah. I understand it definitely affects your sleep, like this one for sure. Like there's actually Thomas Lindstadt was just sharing the other day, and
shout out to Thomas Lindstadt.
I don't know if he can be trusted with these.
We're just name dropping today. Jim Hay got a mention. Thomas Lindstadt.
Well, it's a SLO City
Joe
Together.
Biden got a mention.
Yeah, all the important people. And Thomas was sharing that statistically, heart attacks decrease with the fall time change because you get more sleep. I mean, there's that's the theory. Okay. And then there's an increase in heart attacks this time of year.
Oh, man.
Where people are losing sleep and have a harder time adjusting to it.
Wow.
Which is interesting and just displays the power of sleep and rest. Yeah.
Jenna sent me something yesterday, speaking of sleep, not necessarily on time change, but that LeBron James sleeps 8 to 10 hours a night.
Wow.
Has always. What is it? I'll read it.
Okay.
It's a great.
I feel, like the thing that makes LeBron, one of the things is his longevity. Like the fact that he's not having any substantial injuries.
This could be true.
Okay.
This could be, I don't know who Sharon Miller is, but I once read that LeBron James sleeps 8 to 10 hours a night. Why? Because that's how much sleep his body needs to recover, she says. The more you do, the more margin you need to recharge. And that is just one of the many reasons God instructs us to observe Sabbath. If you're serious about your work, get serious about your rest. And so I think that is probably the angst against daylight savings time. Yeah. Or springing forward because people care about their rest and their work.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah, because it's more than just you obviously lose it for one night, but I think the recovery of that, like I think I've heard before, people use the phrase like, I'm going to catch up on some sleep.
Yeah.
You know, and that's not really how sleep works.
Doesn't
it's
work like
very
that.
much cyclical and rhythmic. And it's not like you can get 3 hours one night and then add 4 hours the next night and
you
make
feel
up
the
for
same.
it. Yeah. It's so.
That is true. You
Yeah.
never really catch up on sleep.
Mm-hmm.
You either lose it or you have it.
Yeah. Which is
Yeah.
how most things work.
Yeah.
No,
I mean,
yeah,
but
I
you
hear
can
what
like
you're saying.
catch up on payments,
Yeah,
or you
yeah,
can
for
catch
sure.
up on, you know, you can get back in shape, you know, but
Yeah.
you can't really get back sleep that's
Yeah.
lost.
Once you lose it, it's kind of gone.
It's kind of gone.
Yeah, you don't really get it
Yeah.
back.
Because I've found that if I oversleep, I feel terrible.
Yeah.
Do you find that?
What's oversleeping for you?
I don't know. For me, it's probably 10 plus hours.
Uh-huh.
Like if I sleep in too long, I feel obliterated that whole next day. And I don't know what that is.
Yeah. Too much of a good thing, I
Too
guess.
much of
I
a
don't
good
know.
thing. Yeah.
Or maybe is it your body saying that you need more rest?
More rest,
And
maybe.
so it's like when you give it the rest it needs,
Please
it's
don't
like,
get up.
It's like, we need more of this. You're doing great. Keep it up. Keep this going.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know either.
That's interesting.
I know I got up the other morning and my face was as swollen as it's ever been in my life. And I was like, I slept great.
Yeah.
I looked in the mirror. Have you ever done that? Looked in the mirror and you're like, oh man, who is that guy? After you have a good night's sleep
I think so.
or a bad night's sleep. I
Yeah,
don't know which one.
that's fair.
Yeah.
Could be either.
We
be
went
both.
up to Sequoia with my dad and my brother and my nephew. We took the boys out of school
Mm-hmm.
and I slept the night we drove up. You know, driving is tiring to me.
For sure.
A lot of attention, especially mountain roads.
Yeah.
Everybody's yelling at me. And spend the day, go to dinner, come back. I go to sleep, and I don't know what it is about my high school boys, but they refuse to sleep in the same bed together. So I'm like, I was like, I don't care if anybody sleeps with me. Like so Cole slept with me, and I woke up. This is not pertaining to much. I was having a great night's sleep.
Yeah.
All right. And I wake up and Cole is like with both hands, he's clasping my hand, pulling me into something. Like he's dead asleep, but he's like kind of like got his fingers in the inside of the palm of one of my hands.
Yeah.
And he's like pulling me towards him. And I'm like, what has happened? Like Cole. And he's like, anyway.
Interesting. So
I woke up that next morning very swollen. Face swollen.
In a good way?
In a good sleep. I got a
Okay.
good sleep outside of being
Nice.
attacked by my son in the middle of the night.
Yeah. Well, that's good when you can recover from that.
Sorry.
I forget who's talked about it before, but they were saying like, you know, the best part about sleeping is like the moment you fall asleep. Like when you're asleep, you don't really notice or care most of the time.
Yeah.
So he's like, I kind of like waking up a bunch because then I get to fall asleep a bunch if you're able to.
Unless you can't fall asleep after you wake up.
Yeah, that's the worst for sure.
Because then you put stress on yourself to fall back asleep. You're like, man, I hope I fall asleep. And just that hope, just you just lost it.
It triggers your mind. And it's
and then what are some of your, so some people have that problem.
Yeah.
And sometimes I think it's a physical thing, it's a stress thing, it's an anxiety thing, it's a fear thing that keeps you awake. Sometimes it's, you know, literally insomnia or whatever. You know, like, what do you find yourself waking up in the middle of the night and not being able to go back to sleep sometimes, like with
on
the worries
occasion,
of the world?
I feel like when that happens, I'm not necessarily like worried. I think it's just like I'm just awake. Like, you know, you ever wake up and feel like you're ready?
I had a visual of you just laying in bed, just with your eyes open.
Yeah.
Just nothing. I'm not thinking of anything. I'm just awake.
Well, I could be thinking of things, but not like anxious or worried about them, you know? So I think the most often thing that will happen is I'll wake up, and you ever just wake up and you're like ready to start the day, but it's like 3 a.m.
Yeah.
Like that will happen.
Yeah.
Where I just wake up, I'm alert, I'm ready. I'm like, but this would be ridiculous if I actually got up right now. I would crash for sure. I feel like I would.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Maybe you could just start working from 3 a.m. to noon. Call it a day.
go to bed at 5 p.m.
I mean, I think I have not really struggled with sleep much in my life. I'll say that. But I am growing empathy for those who struggle, because in the past couple of years, I feel like maybe I'm getting older too. Like caffeine never used to affect me. Now caffeine really affects me all of a sudden.
Like it'll wake you up.
I would always tell you guys, like, I can have a coffee at 7 and I'll go to sleep at 9.
Oh, okay.
You know, like, but I had a coffee the other night at small group at 7
Yeah.
and couldn't fall asleep till like 1. I was like, what is happening? And I was exhausted.
Yeah.
But caffeine now affects me. But waking up in the middle of the night now, I think like, I don't know if it's like just more in our life, more things to like think about or consider or wrestle with. I've been waking up a lot more. And I was asking you that because I'm curious of like your thought process. Like, do you just get up? Do you just like go like, okay, I'm going to wake up at 3?
Yeah.
Or how do you handle those moments in the middle of the night where you're like just wrestling with something?
It's a good question.
Yeah.
Sometimes it depends. If I am like, this sounds silly, if I'm like tired but not falling asleep, then I just still just rest and say like, you know what, like even if I'm not sleeping, like this is rest.
Yeah.
My body needs this. But sometimes if I don't feel tired and I know I'm not going to fall asleep, then I will like say, okay, I'm just going to get up, kind of reset, read, maybe watch a YouTube video, or, you know, just do something that's like I'm intentionally not trying to sleep as a way of just kind of allowing myself to wind down a little bit or something. So that's typically it. I would say most of the time I do just kind of like try to write it out and try to think. I'll either try to pray, or I've heard like a trick for falling asleep is like allowing your imagination to kind of wander. Of like not thinking of real life things, but like getting very detailed about like creating some other like scenario, narrative, world, dream kind of deal. Because that kind of like relaxes your mind and your body and focuses your attention away from the fact that you're not currently sleeping, you know?
Yeah.
So those are some things that I typically do. Yeah. What do you do? What have you found?
I feel like I'm thinking about this a lot more now, like in the past 5 years. Not being able to fall asleep is not really a huge problem for me, but I have found that when I wake up in the middle of the night, I have began to maybe like recognize that it is either, and I'm going to try and articulate this clearly. One, it's like anxiety, or it's like some fear or some problem that I can't figure out. 2, it's like an invitation from God. Like, and I don't know if there's a third. That might just be 2. Okay. Like, I'm trying to think of the third. Or, like, and so I'm like, and sometimes it's both of those things, and maybe I had a third that I'm losing. I can't remember the third that I was thinking of, but, and some of those things are kind of the same. Like, I think in moments of anxiety, fear, like I have learned that sometimes I do need to get up and I need to write something down. So the other night I'm thinking about Vision Sunday, this coming Sunday. Yeah. And I woke up thinking about very clearly about what I wanted to preach through.
Oh, cool.
And I'm like, this is ridiculous. I should not be thinking about this in the middle of the night. Yeah. And I'm like, go back to sleep. And I'm like, well, maybe this is an invitation to actually get up, write it down, like have a drink of water, walk around the house, you know, in the dark, you know, and actually like put thoughts out. Yeah. It's also, I think, sometimes an invitation from God, because usually in anxiety or fear, like you're thinking about something, you're trying to like, I think I preached one time about like the Rubik's Cube, of like you're trying to like figure out the Rubik's Cube in your mind in the middle of the night and trying to do it. And God's like, hey, give it to me. I can do it in 5 seconds, you know? And so like it's an invitation to put down the thing that you're trying to figure out the problem and to put that problem before God. And so I've recently, specifically, I'll just kind of verbally even just whisper, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He leads me beside quiet waters, you know, and restores my soul, you know, even though I walk through the valley, you know, I'll repeat the Lord's Prayer. Yeah. You know, and I think like just to really kind of fixate on some of those words and not just, you know, our Father, holy is your name. God, you're my Father and you're holy. And I'll just sit with that. And I think it like, that's a way in the middle of the day and at night, as somebody whose brain, I think about a lot of things at the same time. And you can even probably pick that up in conversation. Like when you're talking about something, I'm listening to you, but I'm also thinking about what you just said triggered all these. Yeah. That might be ADHD. I'm not sure what that is, but
I don't know either.
But, I think like what's helpful for me is to like take some of those thoughts captive and make them obedient to being present. So in the middle of the night, I will either get up, write something down.
Yeah.
I'll either feel an invitation from God to like step into prayer. Prayer, wrestling. Yeah, I don't know. That's been helpful, but it's also like, I don't know. It's frustrating when you can't go back to sleep sometimes, and you're like,
for sure.
I'm thinking about tomorrow, and I'm thinking about what I got to do, and I'm thinking about how tired I'm going to be if I don't get sleep, and then it just kind of can snowball. Yeah. And you can kind of be trapped in that.
For sure.
And some of that is the fear of being unproductive. Does that make sense? Like, so then I'm like, why am I so afraid of not being productive tomorrow?
Oh yeah.
You know, like, what if I, like, and then I'll wrestle with that. Yeah. Put that before, I don't know. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So you kind of like, it's almost like you just kind of allow yourself to follow, like to like lean into whatever you're kind of feeling and thinking. Yeah. But not out of a place of like if it is anxiety or fear, like you lean into that, not in a sense of like,
this
allowing
is great.
It to snowball, but in a sense of like, well, I'm going to explore that. Like this is an opportunity to kind of dive into that.
And I would say last week I had a night like that, and it's 3:30 in the morning. I'm awake. I'm thinking about things, and I'm like, I'm praying. I'm doing all, you know, I'm kind of going through my process, and I'm like, I think I need to call a friend. Yeah. Luckily, I have people who live on the East Coast who are waking up at 6:30, 7 o'clock. Yeah. And so I just got up and I went to the living room and I just called one of my buddies. I'm like, hey man, I just need you to pray with me. And he's like, why are you awake? You know, like, and you know, he's texting me some encouragement. And so I think like even like recognizing the power of community. So like invitation from God into deeper prayer, invitation to acknowledge the things that are going on beneath the surface and maybe trying to get them out. And then an invitation to bring in other people. And I know that's unique because I have friends in different time zones, 3 and 4 hours away. But that's kind of what's been helpful for me.
That's cool. And that's like a vulnerable thing to do. Like it takes like a sense of courage to be able to like call someone up on a whim, especially because I think for me in those moments I would think like, oh, they're going to be so concerned and so curious as to like, wow, why are you calling me at 3:30 in the morning? Yeah. And I think I can even use that as like a deterrent to do that. Like, oh, I don't want to burden someone, worry someone, whatever. Yeah. Like I'll just kind of, but I think, I don't know. I have to put myself in like their shoes as well and think if the reverse was true, I would be concerned, but not like, whoa.
And I sent a text first. So I'm not going to call. Like, I'm not my dad. My dad who lives on the East Coast doesn't consider the time zone at all. So he'll send me texts
Those are always fun.
At 2:30. Yeah. I'm like, what are you doing? I'm dead asleep. Why are you texting me at 2:30 expecting a response? Yeah. Oh, I forgot. Yeah. You forgot that I live in California?
I had a former student at my old church, I think it was like a year after I moved here, called me I distinctly remember 5:37 a.m. Oh. And it was a similar situation. I was like, you know, that's 5:30 for me, right? I know it's 8:30 for you, but a little bit different. So
he expected you to be up in a prayerful mode.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Like drinking your coffee, going through your process.
Yeah, he's been up for 37 minutes already. He's awake. He's good to go.
Sleep is weird, man. It's weird. It's like so vital, and yet like we live in that's what I was talking about. Like the fear of being unproductive. I think our cultural reality says like you are your level of efficiency and productivity tomorrow. Yeah. And so like, you're like, I got to do whatever so I have to be efficient in my sleep, and and it's like everything can feel, if you live in that, like this, like squeezing tension to do everything right. Yeah. And that's where all that anxiety comes from. It's like, you're so wound tight to like get the most out of every day, be accomplished, get stuff done, that you're like, you're never just like, you know what? I don't care if I do anything productive tomorrow. I just want to enjoy life and be content. I think that's what we all desire, but it's hard to actually attain that.
For sure. Yeah. And I think we have a specific understanding idea of like what even productivity is. Like, I don't know. So even like initiating something or starting something or, I don't know, like it could be a relational thing. Like, hey, I texted someone I haven't texted, called someone I haven't called.
Yeah.
I think like those don't feel like, okay, I'm making progress at my job, or I'm making progress in a workout, or you know what I mean? But I think there's like, again, I don't think productivity is like the thing that we should all prioritize and be striving for. But at the same time, I think like productivity comes and looks different, in different ways.
Yeah.
I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
So kind of takes like perspective to have that too.
Yeah. And even like, I think I've was reading this book with a friend called You Are Not Your Brain.
Mm-hmm.
And it talks about those deceptive brain messages, and you have to like take time to process, like, is this thought true?
Yeah.
Like kind of unwind, like kind of back up from that thought and say like, let me explore the truth of this thought. Oh, it's not true. It's deceptive. It's twisted. And it does take some power and some training or even like practice to like back up from a thought and go like, that's not true.
Yeah.
It's not true.
Yeah.
Like the thought of, I don't know, I am my work, or I'm alone.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody, I have nobody. That's a common thought that I think a lot of people feel like no one will understand, and like you can just kind of spin on that and live in that, but to actually back up and say like, no, there are some people in my life that I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway.
That's good. And I think it's like what you're talking about. That's what's happening in sometimes in those sleepless moments. Like I think that's what like leaning in looks like, is to acknowledge the fear, the anxiety, whatever it is, and to discern like, is this true or not? Where is this coming from? Like, what has triggered this, caused this? Why am I feeling this way? Which I think is an invitation, can be an invitation from God to discover those things, and even make space, allow him to kind of speak into that too.
Do you, I don't know how we started talking about sleep, but do you feel like when you're on vacation or when you have like an extended break of like a week, do you sleep better? Or is it the same?
I'd say the way that I have like vacationed recently is very much like doing things. Yeah. So I would say I probably am not sleeping as much. Yeah. I don't know about as well, but I think I'm intentionally like, all right, I'm going to bed a little later, waking up a little earlier because I'm trying to do all these different things. So I don't know. I haven't noticed that. Why? Okay. Do you feel a certain way?
I'm just curious if that's like a difference for people, because I think like even just the mindset of like, I am not my work. Yeah. I have nothing to accomplish. I have nothing to prove. I wonder if that sets, because I mean, when I go, for me sometimes like when I go on vacation, I can sleep all the time. Yeah. And I think like that tells me that my mindset, wow, there's a lot to accomplish. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I'm like trying to figure, like as I grow and mature in life, and hopefully mature in life and my faith and walk with Jesus, like I become more aware of like, why can I sleep better on vacation than I can when I'm not? And some of it's like, I mean, you have to get up and take the kids to school. You have to do, there's tasks. Right. But how could I get to the mindset of like, that in a level of like peace and contentment, and how can we grow in that level of peace and contentment in our daily life?
For sure.
Anyway,
that made me think of, similarly, not related to sleep, but
Go ahead.
A couple weekends ago, Abby and I took a day trip to Channel Islands, and which is it was an interesting. For one, it was beautiful. If you haven't been, we just went to Santa Cruz Island. You take a boat. It's like an hour ride.
How much was the boat?
It's expensive. It was like $60 a person. So
okay, that's all right though.
Yeah,
it's cheaper than an Uber.
That's true. Yeah, but you're still you're driving 2 hours.
Yeah, to get there.
One way. So it's a bit of an investment, but it was breathtaking. It was beautiful. Yeah. They have these dwarf foxes. They're only on this. I think they're only in the Channel Islands. I don't know if they're only on that specific island, but they're foxes that are the size of a cat, essentially.
Weird.
Anyway, all this to say, you
hairless cat?
No, they have hair. They have hair, thankfully. You take an hour, ferry ride out to an island. The island doesn't have reception. There's only certain times that the boats leave, and so it is this interesting practice. Like for me going into it, especially on a Saturday, like there's a sense of anxiety of like, man, I'm going like off the grid for a day, and maybe people don't even know I'm going off the grid. Maybe I didn't know I was going off the grid, but I knew. Yeah, it's just an interesting like practice of kind of like what you're saying. I think it's like, it was just interesting to see how that affects how that affected me. Like
Yeah.
of just saying like I'm kind of forced to be in the moment, forced to be content, which was cool.
Were you tired
Afterwards?
Yeah. During?
Not during.
Yeah.
I would say physically, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I think I woke
You guys
up
hiking
at
a lot?
5:30. Yeah, we did a 9-mile hike just kind of
Wow.
around like
Fun.
one of the areas of the island. It was really cool. And then we got back to our car at like 5 p.m. Got home around 8 p.m. or something like that. So physically, yeah, I would say it wasn't, there's different type of tired. I wasn't like I wasn't drained, I would say.
Did you snorkel?
No.
Is there snorkeling out there?
Yeah, so I think one of the big
Diving?
draws of Channel Islands is like snorkeling, kayaking, like water
Yeah.
activities. But the island itself, like if you enjoy hiking, was pretty incredible.
Huh. I want to go do that.
You should. And I'd say like the springtime because it's so green and lush and there's water and
Who was that?
some flowers. I don't know.
Who just rode a bike?
It was
by
a
the
yellow
window?
bike. I don't think
Okay.
it was one of ours.
Is it this guy? Who's standing? Somebody sent me a picture of themselves standing outside the front door.
It very well could be then.
Help me.
Oh man. So anyway,
Yeah, sorry.
no, you're good.
They're texting me. Can we come in? It's just you and me in the office right now. It's you and me, buddy.
Just doing a
We got
podcast.
this. We got this.
Oh man.
Yeah, I don't know where we were going with that. Channel
I
Island,
don't either.
sleep, rest, all the things.
Contentment, being in the
Sabbath.
moment, leaning in. Sabbath.
I mean, I think
yeah.
you Sabbath that day, and even though
Yeah.
you didn't sit, you were very physically
It's
active,
different
like to
kind.
like unplug, like,
Yep.
and the level of contentment that you feel in that. Is that what you were getting to?
Yeah, because it's like forced contentment. It's like things could be happening and
Yeah.
I don't know about it.
Yeah.
And things could need my attention and
Yeah.
I can't do it and I don't know. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So it's like
Yeah,
you're forced to be content. It's
Yeah.
like I could spend my time worrying about that, but there's no point because I can do literally nothing about it. So, which is probably true in most of life too,
Mhm.
right? But it's like you're forced to recognize that when you physically cannot do something
that's
outside
nice.
of what you're doing, which was a cool practice.
Yeah.
And alerted me to like how hard that is, to even step into that.
Did you know there's like there's hermitages? Hermitages? Is that a word?
I think so.
Hermitage?
What's the plural of hermitage? Yeah.
There are like several hermitage facilities up and down the coast. Like,
Yeah.
hey, Big Sur, there's one in SLO, apparently.
Yep.
There's
Mhm.
one where I was at this past Saturday. It's Three Rivers Sequoia
okay.
National Forest.
Yeah.
And something to possibly explore for the listener and for you and I of like,
Mhm.
places of silence, of reflection, of quiet.
Yeah.
And I don't know. Jenna and I were talking about that the other day, like spending a day or two at a hermitage here in town. So yeah, man.
You know this, but I last Tuesday took like a day off and just kind of like intentional time away with the Lord.
Yeah.
And like just went up to Cambria, read, journaled in the morning, took a hike, and I just noticed like the rest of that week, like it really paid dividends,
Mhm.
like of just peace, presence,
Mm-hmm.
even like energy, like physical, mental, emotional energy. It was like, I feel like more energized by this. So yeah, I think like any time that you can do that is helpful. And I think sometimes you may not recognize it, but
there we go.
That can
We're doing
be
it.
an obstacle. So yeah.
Other things. He's here. He's here now. He's coming to the window.
We're
There's a man in our office walking around. A couple things that are coming up that we're excited about. Number one, Easter, 5 services, 7 a.m. You excited for that one? Which will feel like 6 a.m. now. I didn't even realize that.
Yeah,
It'll feel
we'll
like
have a
6
couple weeks to adjust.
Yeah, 7 a.m., 8:30, 10, 11:30, and noon. This Sunday is Vision.
It's 6 p.m.
It's 6 p.m. Not noon, sorry.
Mm-hmm.
6 p.m. This Sunday is Vision Sunday. I'm excited for it. You've gotten to read a little bit of what is going to be shared.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, nothing revolutionary.
Yeah, but I think some good
excited.
like practical steps, practical takeaways.
Yeah,
and
practical things to look for.
Yeah, for sure.
I had a group of high school boys in my living room yesterday, 2 days ago when I came home, and I said, guys, what's your vision for your life? And they said, what's vision?
Wow. Interesting response.
I feel like I need to define it.
Yeah. Cool.
And so So that's where we're going. So
awesome.
Vision Sundays this weekend. We start a new series the following called Good News, where we're talking about the life, death, and resurrection of Jesus. I will encourage you, if you're listening to this at this point, if you're a lady, sign up for Women's Weekend. It's going to be incredible. Jenna is working hard with the team. It's going to be a special weekend, and so make sure you're a part of that. And lots coming up. Yeah. Don't stress. Be content. Be at peace. And know that God is for you.
That's good. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you soon.
We're going to go talk to this guy in our office.
Okay, sounds good.